Hi everyone, Nicholas Chotala here, Curator of Cultural History at the New Jersey State Museum. In the previous 8 episodes of this short video series tied to our exhibition Fine Feathered Friends, Birds as Mainstay and Muse, we've looked at a wide array of historical artifacts and artworks featuring birds. We've explored the watercolor paintings and copperplate etchings of John James Audubon, hand-carved hunting decoys, historical menus, porcelain bird sculptures by the renowned Beam and Cebus Studios, and even lithographic World War I propaganda posters featuring our national symbol, the bald eagle. Today we are going to look at a category of American material culture that we've not yet explored: textiles. More specifically, 19th century quilts, coverlets, and needlework samplers. The word textile describes a cloth or fabric material that is made up of an interwoven network of fibers. Clothing, carpets, blankets, bed sheets, and table linens are all examples of textiles. Historical 19th century textiles were made from fibers derived from plants or animals. Plant fibers included the familiar material of cotton, and also linen, which was derived from the flax plant. Common animal fibers were wool from sheep and silk, which was produced from colonies of silkworms. Quilts are probably the most familiar of 19th century textiles. A quilt is a handmade bed covering made up of many individual pieces of colorful printed cloth. The cornerstone of quilt design is the block. Quilts are often made up of many of these blocks, which are joined together side by side or pieced. Sometimes quilters added other designs to a quilt by attaching them on top, a technique known as applique. Once the top layer is completed, the quilt is sandwiched with a filling, known as batting. A fabric back is attached, and it is bound on the edges. The process of joining the layers with stitching, either by hand or with a sewing machine, is known as quilting. In the 1800s, the women who made quilts gave names to the various block designs, and some of those designs were named for birds. An early important book that documented quilt pattern names is this 1929 text by Ruth Finley. In 1948, an exhibit catalog from the Newark Museum gives the name Wild Goose Chase to a quilt pattern consisting of a series of three-cornered patches in a long row, seen here. The catalog theorizes that this three-cornered patch was meant to symbolize birds. The three-cornered triangle of the Wild Goose Chase pattern is also found in other pattern names like hovering hawks, ducks and ducklings, and birds in the air. This recent addition to our collection, a quilt made by Abigail Brooks of Trenton in 1847, uses those three-cornered patches or triangles that represent birds as a key decorative motif. These geometric birds also appear as a border element in another quilt from our collection, this attractive quilt made in 1842 by Mary Wetherill of Cranberry, New Jersey. If you use your imagination, you can probably see how such a pattern may have had its inspiration in Canada geese flying high up in the air. Canada geese are migratory birds that fly south for the winter in large flocks, but today can be found year-round here in New Jersey. This may be due to the abundance of waste grain that will sustain them through northern winters. Many people dislike these birds because they are loud, boisterous, and congregate in large groups on soccer fields and golf courses. But if you look closely at those large flocks, you'll see that Canada geese are a pair-bonding species. They find a partner and mate for life. Oh, and remember, the official name is Canada geese, not Canadian geese. Another 19th century textile is the coverlet, which differs from a quilt. Whereas quilts are made of layers of printed fabric stitched together, coverlets are a single layer woven on a loom. They were often made in two pieces due to the width of the loom. The two pieces were then stitched together side by side to form a finished blanket. Coverlets were also reversible. Historically, a light side would be shown face up in summer, and a dark blue side shown in winter. This beautiful coverlet featuring birds was made by the New Jersey weaver I. Christie, who made it for Elizabeth Banta. Christie was from Bergen County, a hotbed for weaving in New Jersey in the 19th century. Little is known about the weaver, and the I might actually be a J, since the two letters were often interchanged in the 19th century. The coverlet design includes eagles with heart motifs, which suggest patriotism and love for country, and also roosters standing on what look like eggs. But the most used bird is a dove, seen both in flight as well as perched in a tree, next to a disinterested squirrel and above a curious dog. The silhouette looks very much like a mourning dove. These ubiquitous birds can be found everywhere except deep woods. They store seeds in an esophageal pouch called the crop, and then flutter up to safe perches to feed. Mourning doves can eat up to 20% of their body weight every day. Remember, their name is mourning dove with a U, and not morning as in the AM hours. They may be named for their sad, cooing sound. A third type of textile featuring bird-themed designs is the needlework sampler. Samplers are intricate fiber artworks consisting of thousands of tiny silk stitches made by hand with a needle and thread. Young girls between the ages of 8 and 15 made samplers at school in the 19th century, schools that were often intended to prepare a young woman for a future of domesticity. Needlework was seen as an important skill that could help with marriage prospects and be an asset in managing a household. Teachers distributed patterns that students copied as a needlework exercise. Why are they called samplers? Because they were a sample of different stitches that one might use later in life for mending garments or placing initials on family linens. With time, samplers evolved from the utilitarian to the decorative. Parents displayed samplers made by their daughters on the walls of their homes. There, they were prized as family heirlooms. The religious messaging on some samplers affirmed the family's Christian values. Letters, numbers, houses, trees, flowers, strawberries, and of course birds are common decorative elements on New Jersey needlework samplers. Our finest example of the use of birds in samplers is probably this piece made in 1835 by Caroline Eliza Sayer of Newark. The level of detail is remarkable considering its maker's young age. Caroline was only 10 years old. There are 4 species of birds in this sampler, which retain some good color despite the partial fading of the natural silk dyes due to a century of exposure to light. It is surely a northern cardinal that is perched on this man's finger. The red color, yellow beak, and tiny head tuft made from a single minute stitch tells us so. 3 other bird species are seen here. The bird on the left is surely an American robin, that other popular backyard species. Can you see the prominent orange breast? And on the right, a rooster sits on a fence, a symbol of rural America. And the last species at the top of a tall tree, I would say, is probably an indigo bunting. I guess it could be a bluebird, but whenever I hear the pretty song of indigo buntings when on a hike, I look up and seem to always find them singing from high perches. These are beautiful little birds named for their all-over blue coloration in the breeding males. But the bird has no blue pigment in its feathers. Their glowing, jewel-like color comes from microscopic structures that reflect and refract light. Indigo buntings migrate only at night. They use the stars for guidance. They are sometimes known as blue canaries. In many needlework samplers made by schoolgirls, birds are a frequent decorative motif. Common birds show the connection between humans and their environment. Exotic birds show curiosity about the wider world. all illustrate a love and appreciation of nature and a fascination with our fine feathered friends, a fascination which continues to the present day. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories of New Jersey history and culture as told through birds.